You know, there's this great Romanian saying that the working class is drinking champagne through their politicians and their representatives. And here you have such an example. All of a sudden, a lot of leftists on Twitter have become absolute experts when it comes to tariffs. They all of a sudden understand the economy. And notice when they talk about it, they say when a company imports shirts for $20 and then the American company sells the shirt in store for $40. And I'm thinking, who the hell buys a $40 shirt? And the answer is people like Hassan Piker. It's these content creators, these left-leaning people that are so disconnected from the life of average person that they live in the luxury where they can actually afford the shirt of $40. And you know what? If you can afford the shirt for $40, I'm sure you can afford the one for $50 as well. If it creates more American jobs, I'm sure you can do a little bit of effort and afford the one on $50. Or hey, you know what? Buy the fucking $20 one that's made in USA. How about that? Can you do that, poopsikins? My fucking god, this is so annoying because when it comes to tariffs, they understand the economy. But when it comes to things like regulations, when it comes to things like taxing the rich, when it comes to things like setting a minimum wage, then they don't understand the economy. These things have absolutely no kickback. They have absolutely no negative side effects. They're the best shit ever. You know, when the government decides to start printing money during the pandemic, when it tells you to stay home, stay safe, because it's going to keep grandma healthy. When they're saying that there's not going to be an inflation, or if the inflation happens, it's just transitory. When they think that, yeah, sure, we can shut down the economy, tell people not to go to work, and nothing will happen. You know, they don't understand the economy then. Then it's a blur. Then it's complex. It's just like number. But now when it's about tariffs, all of a sudden they are experts. So yes, absolutely, Donald Trump has talked about tariffs, and they do have negative consequences. Now, you also need to take into account the person that is talking. Like, again, the left like to pretend that he is a buffoon, that he's a caricature, that all of his businesses are going bankrupt, that he's probably one of the worst business people on earth. He doesn't understand anything to do with economy. He's a moron. But at the same time, that moron manages to become elected the president of the United States. Not once, but twice. And he also manages to create a stable economy during his administration without anything going bankrupt, right? The same with Elon Musk. It's like when he took Twitter, I was told that Twitter is going to disappear. I was told that it's going to crash. He fired so many people, like he fired 90% of people on Twitter, and it's going to become a dying platform. And then they started writing articles how Twitter is very influential and it's dangerous and they need to regulate it, right? Like it's the two opinions that leftists have in their head. It's like on one hand, the person is a buffoon, but on the other hand, he's very powerful and capable and he needs to be stopped. So when it comes to Donald Trump and tariffs, circling back, usually what he does is he tries to get people at the table to negotiate. Like he will threaten them with something colossal, so that in the end, the person goes like, well, don't do the colossal thing, do something less. And Trump goes like, okay, I'll do something less, but you gotta do something for me. And it's called The Art of the Deal. The man wrote the book about, come on, you know, obviously, it's the way he does business. Like, this is not a new person coming up that we don't know anything about his life. It's literally in everything. It's like, if you guys from Europe don't pay for NATO, I'm going to pull out. And guess what? People start paying for NATO. Like, it's just the way that he does things. Now, when it comes for tariffs, I hope that he doesn't just use them like a sledgehammer, and he actually uses them with precision. In other words, he only tariffs certain goods, he only tariffs certain countries, and that would be a good thing, especially if they're temporary. Like, tariffs can be used as an incentive, as a measure. It can backfire because while you can tariff a country, the country can tariff you back. It can actually make for the period of the transition until you get the companies coming back into the United States. Yes, like consumer prices can raise, but overall, it's a gamble. This is how economy works. Like nothing is 100% certainty guaranteed. But what is true is that the left caused this shit to begin with. Because, okay, they're basically saying that if American company imports shirts for $20, then they sell it for $40. Now if you add the tariff, the consumer is going to pay $50. And this is correct unless the fucking product is made in the US, right? So like if you make shirts in the United States, then they can just cost $20. How about that, leftists? Did that occur to you? Like, did you do the math? Am I good at economy? Do I understand it, right? So now the question is, like, will companies come to the United States? Because I was told that America cannot manufacture TVs, for instance. So, like, throughout human history, Americans are just incapable of manufacturing TVs, right? Like, they have a small country, they have a very tiny working force, they're an island nation, they just don't have the resources, the know-how, the technology, they just cannot do it. They cannot manufacture TVs at all. This is what the left is saying now. Or Americans are just too lazy. You know, I don't know how they managed to create an empire, how they managed to win 2 world wars, but like out of the entire human population, the American people are just the laziest. Meanwhile, people outside of America are incredibly hardworking, dedicated, and once they go into the United States, they also remain hardworking, they remain dedicated. I don't know what causes this. Must be genetics, because it's clearly not cultural, it's not something in the ground, right? Because like when they move to America and they assimilate in the melting pot and they become Americans, they don't become lazy, right? But anyway, the reason that the companies left, the reason that America can't make TV anymore is because of regulations. Which is interesting because I don't see the people on Twitter freaking out when companies get over-regulated. Like, for some reason, that's fine. But yeah, no, you have like too many regulations. You have shit like minimum wage, tax the rich, which also means taxing businesses. And then at one point, the business realized, wouldn't it be cheaper if we actually just move to China? Because we don't have regulations there. You don't have to worry about the minimum wage. You don't have to worry about any of that. So we make the shit there, and then we import it to America. Now the only people that lose are the people that are looking for jobs. Because all of a sudden they find out, well, you know, I would have loved to get a job, but there aren't any, right? The working class. Now, there is a saying that the left cares about the poor and the right cares about the rich. Which means that the left is incentivized to keep people poor so that they keep voting for the left, while the right is incentivized to make people wealthy so that they vote for the right. It makes sense, right? Like there's a financial interest, there's a conflict of interest there. So in this situation, yeah, like keeping the working class disenfranchised and poor actually does work for the left. To be fair, this also worked for the right because business owners, they're happy. They're like, oh, sure, I'll put my business in China, I'll bribe some officials there, and I don't have to worry about the regulations and all the nonsense that happens in the US. And then they can support all of the regulations and they can support all of the nasty policies because it's hurting their competition that was dumb enough to remain in the US. And it's also the thing with minimum wage that really pisses me off, you know, because what if a person doesn't have the skill required to be worth a minimum wage? You know, like, let's say you have a college student and he just wants to make some cash. He wants to become a waiter or he wants to mow someone's lawn. Like, he wants to make some extra change. But, like, his skill isn't worthy of being paid minimum wage. What do you do then? He's not supposed to work, is he? And why should he? Just stay in college until you're 35. So we can lower the unemployment rate on statistics. For some reason, the left doesn't talk about these things. Like, they're not as educated when it comes to these issues, but they're incredibly educated when it comes to tariffs. Yeah. So all in all, yeah, I do think, like, tariffs is going to actually cause prices to rise. The question is, are companies going to come back from China, and will more companies from the US move away? We already know the answer to the second question because there have been companies that wanted to expand into Mexico and China and they chose not to after Trump announced that he's going to put tariffs. Meanwhile, you may actually have companies coming back. Will that happen in mass? I don't know. And until it happens, yes, like things are going to be a bit more expensive. But the left fucked things, so now someone has to unfuck them. Because all of the regulations and the taxes and the tariffs and all the nasty shit, that was done by the left. They are the ones that scared the companies away. There's no reason why America cannot make televisions. There is no justification on why America cannot make television. And this cultural thing, this insanely toxic thing, should be treated exactly like racism to say that Americans are lazy. It's interesting how white people are so lazy. Did you notice that almost every single white nation has the saying? Romanians are lazy. Americans are lazy. British people are lazy. So this is why we need immigration. Fuck off. No, seriously, fuck off. Like, you cannot convince me that over 300 million people are lazy. Fuck off. This saying should actually be offensive and disgusting when anyone even utters it. No, they're not lazy. The companies either don't pay enough or they're not allowed to operate in a free market. They're forced to operate by certain standards and regulations that are too expensive in order to sell the product. So the companies are either hiring illegal migration in order to be able to threaten the migrants to deport them if they don't keep quiet, or they just move the company elsewhere where they don't have to deal with the bullshit. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.